So we're going to look at how we can find the area of composite shapes. What we mean by a composite shape is a shape that's made up of regular shapes put to or combined together. So your learning intention for this lesson will be to find the area of composite shapes, and your success criteria will be that you understand how to find the area by splitting the shape up into smaller shapes and then adding to find the total area of the shape. You will be using your thinking skills to do this. You'll need to be organised with your working, and of course be an area. This work has got practical applications, so it's important that you think about that as we go through this topic. So here's an example. You can see on this shape here that you've got basically two rectangles that have been put together, and the way you get the total area of a shape like that is you would split it up. If it's not already been split up into two rectangles, you would need to put that dividing line in, and you'll see in the second example that will be the case. So here, if we're looking at the shape that I've labelled as A inside, then we can clearly see the measurements for shape A are 10 by 9. So it's those two numbers that you're going to multiply together to give you the area for the first rectangle, so rectangle A. And then separately for rectangle B, you're then looking at these measurements here, your 8 and your 4. And it's those two numbers that get multiplied, right? Area of a rectangle, length times breadth, so that's why we're multiplying. And we get 32 square centimetres. And then basically to work out your total, you're simply adding together these two values that we've just got here. So you're adding the 90 and the 32, and we're saying at the bottom there that we've got our total area is therefore going to be 122 square centimetres. So your working should be set out in a similar way. You can have, it doesn't have to be two rectangles, you might have something or a shape like this, which is made up of a rectangle and a triangle. You can separately work out, you can set your work out slightly different for this. You might wish to say, even put a little heading that says I'm working out the rectangle. So the rectangle, we would say area is length times breadth, and from a rectangle that means I'm using 3 by 6, so 3 times 6. And notice this time the measurements are in metres, which means my area will be square metres, so 18 square metres. For the triangle, you were introduced to the formula for the triangle last week. The area of a triangle is of course half times the base of the triangle times by the height. So that would be your 8 metres by 6 metres are the two measurements that you need for that triangle. So your area would be equal to a half times by 8 times by 6. And you can do 8 times 6 and then half, or you can do a half times 8, which is 4, and then times by 6, so 24 square metres. But of course it's the total area we want, so total area is found by adding these two things together. So it's your rectangle plus the triangle, and you're simply adding together those two numbers, your 18 plus the 24, which would give you 42 square metres. Make sure you've got the units correct when you do this. So basically finding areas of, these are called composite shapes, where they are constructed or made up of more than one shape. So this second one here, this second is, actually this should be third example, right, in this one. So we'll call this example 3. We had 1, that was example 2, so this is actually example 3. You can clearly see here that it's basically a kind of L shape, and we're looking to find the area of this. So we want to draw in an internal line so that we can divide the shape up into rectangles. Now you can do that by perhaps adding in a line there. If you did that, you would then, and I would be asking you to draw out the shape, and then we will label and we'll say that this is shape A and this is shape B. So when it comes to looking at shape A, so area for A, now we're going to be doing length times breadth, so when we look at this shape here, we can see we've got a wee bit of a 3 here, but that 3 is actually only part of the length or the breadth. So in this 15 that's going all the way along the bottom is not the whole side. So when you're looking at the rectangle for A, the measurements that you would be looking to use would be the 9 for this side and then the 8 here. So you would not be using the 3 at all. So we'll be doing area of A will be worked out by doing 9 times the 8. 9 times our 8, which is of course 72 square centimetres, and then we would go on and work out the area of B, and this time it's a wee bit harder because we actually do have to work out some measurements here. So if this 15 centimetres goes all the way along the bottom, and we know that this edge here, this part of it, will be 9 because it needs to match the top part there, that would mean that this bit in here would need to be 6. Now you can do the same thing going in the other direction. You know that it's 8 centimetres all the way down. So if this little bit here is 3, then it means that this edge, this red dotted bit, or this edge here, would need to therefore be 5. So when you come to work out the area for B, the two measurements that you are using are the 6 and the 5, but you've had to work them out. So you're doing 6 times 5 would get 30, and that would give you your total. You can then say at the bottom, total area will be equal to, and you would add those two things together, 72 plus the 30 would give you 102 square centimetres. Now that is not the only way we could have worked that out. We could have divided up that shape slightly differently in the following way. So if you look at it here, you might have, if you'd drawn out that diagram, you might have decided, well, I'm going to create my two rectangles in this way. Would that make a difference? So this time that would be my shape A at the top, this would be my shape B at the bottom. But when I'm working out my areas, I need to be very careful that I'm choosing the correct measurements. So this is my rectangle that I'm calling rectangle A. The dimensions of that rectangle are the longest side is 9 centimetres and the short side is the 3. So the area for shape 3 is 9 times 3, which is 27. And this longest, this bottom rectangle, the area B this time is worked out by doing 15 multiplied by, now we would need this measurement here, the short measurement. Now it's not 8. Recall a little minute ago that we just said that actually if this is 3 centimetres here, it means that this part here would need to be 5. So we would need to be doing 15 times by 5, which is of course 75. And if we then add these two measurements together, we would get for our total area, we would have 27 plus 75, which is equal to 102 square centimetres, which is the same that we got that minute ago. So it doesn't matter which way you would divide that shape up, but the key thing is you will need to draw And in some cases, not all cases, but occasionally you might need to do this bit where you have to work out the dimensions, but sometimes it'll be obvious, like the first example. So little recap on what you've found so far, or what you should be doing. This is your instructions for this lesson. You should sketch the shape, show how they've been divided up, you label each of your parts of your shape A and B, and you work out the area of each part, and then you're going to add them together to get the total area of the shape. Now it's your turn to practice, and remember, when you're working with area, your units will either be square centimetres, square metres, or square millimetres.